Everyone, welcome to the session. And today we will be discussing about Aeolian landforms, those landforms which are being formed by the action of wind. And yes, I hope all of you are able to recall that we are actually learning about the exogenetic forces. And in the exogenetic forces, in our previous session, we discussed that what will be the result of running water. We have discussed that what kind of topographical or slope changes will be brought by glacial movement when the glacier will move. And now today we will be learning that as a result of air, when this air is working, when the air is working in order to modify the crust, in order to wear down the crust, what kind of topographical features or slope will be observed, and the same will be given a specific name. And yes, you have to remember those names, certainly. So Aeolian landforms are those landforms which are actually the result of erosion or deposition, which is being caused by wind itself. And these landforms are created by erosional, transportation, and depositional work of wind. And this dominant feature of wind will be always there in the desert areas where you see arid or semi-arid climatic condition. In those areas you will see these kind of landforms, specifically in the desert areas, in the desert, we can say climatic regions, wherever the deserts are located, there you will see these perfectly or well appeared Aeolian landforms which we are about to see in this particular session. So wherever you see this dry or arid or semi-arid or desert, these Aeolian landforms are likely to be observed. And this Aeolian landform, as I told you earlier as well, that they are the result of wind. So when the wind is moving, now why wind will move? Wind will move from high pressure zone, towards low pressure zone. This wind will move from high pressure to low pressure. Wind will move from high pressure to low pressure. They will have a gradient from high pressure to low pressure, and accordingly the wind, or let's say the air which is moving, so horizontal movement of air, is termed as what? Wind. So as a result of this pressure difference, we will have what? Wind. And when this wind is there, this wind will cause what? Some sort of removal, some sort of wear down, some sort of topographical changes on the surface. And in geography, what we are learning, we are actually learning that how slope is look like, how slope is appearing from the top. We have already done that because of the endogenetic factors, how slope will going to modify from the interior forces. And now we are focusing that how and in what ways those exogenetic forces will create or modify our crust. With respect to the erosional processes which are associated with these Aeolian landforms, let's see that first, and then we will going to see that what landforms, what topographical changes are likely to visible because of the action of wind itself. So first of all, we have a deflation. We have what? Deflation. Deflation means simple. Deflation means whenever we have a like a lifting and removal of loose fine particles by wind. Suppose we have these fine particles. These are what? Fine particles, and this is what the wind, let's say. So when this wind will uplift, when wind will going to remove these loose particles from the surface, so that will be called as what? Deflation. That will be called as what? Deflation. It is just like that water. So here we have these fundamental processes, those who are associated with the Aeolian landforms. So we have a deflation. Deflation means simple. When we have a surface, when we have a wind, now when this wind will going to uplift the loose material of the surface, that will be called as what? Deflation. And as a result of deflation, you will see today that we have a formation of hollow depressions. Abrasion means what? That the sand particles carried by wind polish and wear down the rock surfaces. Suppose we have a surface, suppose we could have a rock. So if we have a rocks, so wind will cause removal of rock, and yes, with the wind, the particles, those who are deflated, they will also cause what? Removal. And when they will cause removal, that process will be called as what? Abrasion. So medium, that means wind, and the loose material which is there in the wind itself, both will cause removal at the slope or the surface. That process will be known as what? Abrasion. Abrasion is responsible for, these we can say modification in the rock surfaces. So this is what the abrasion. So both wind is actually causing impact, and yes, the small particles which are here, the small sand particles which are here, they are also causing what? They are also causing removal of these loose materials, specifically attrition. Now what is attrition? Sand grains collide. Sand grains, those who are there in the medium, let's say this is the wind, let's say this is the wind, and in this wind, when we have these small sand particles, if they will going to collide with each other, as a result of their collision, they'll become more sharper, they will become more rounder, they will become more, in terms of finer, they will become what? More finer, more smoother and more polished. So this process will be called as what? Attrition. It is same as that of water. I hope you remember in the river, or let's say in the fluvial landforms, we discussed about the same. Then we have a transportation. Wind actually carries the material which is actually suspended, that we used to call as a dust. And when this suspended material will going to uh, have some sort of, the deposition, so we will call that particular aspect as movement of sediments. That sediments, the fine particles which are there in the wind, they are actually moving, they are actually mobile in terms of their medium, we can say. So here we have these a little bit deflation and abrasion kind of, categorization. So this is the deflation, when it will going to pick up as a result of this, the simple erosion, you can say. Abrasion means like when we have a wind and the eroded material, both will cause removal. When the loaded material itself in the wind, they will have some sort of collision with each other, that will be the attrition. And yes, ultimately wind will going to transport that specific particular material which is there. So desert, what is desert? Desert is the barren area. The desert is what? Barren area. Technically, if you see, so desert is that specific area where there is no vegetation. Now, vegetation is closely linked with the precipitation. So you can say that desert is an area where there is a scarce vegetation and almost almost less rainfall, almost less precipitation. That would be correct. So desert is the area which is featured with a barren topography, which is featured with a less, or especially very less vegetation and scanty rainfall. This is a barren area, and yes, we could have some sort of little precipitation, and the conditions will be always hostile in the desert with respect to the animal as well as the human as well. Now the lack of vegetation which is there in the desert area, here you can see, okay, that will ultimately lead to the unprotected surface, and this process, I mean, it will going to facilitate the process of denudation. I hope you remember denudation, that means removal, that means materials are transported and ultimately materials will going to deposited. So desert that are barren, when nothing is there, that will be called as what? True desert. Insufficient and irregular rainfall, high temperature, rapid rate of evaporation, they are the main causes responsible for this desert aridity. More features you will going to learn in climatology. Specifically in climatology, you will get to know that what are the main reason responsible for desert located in the western margin of continents. We have some specific reason behind this. You will get a clarity in climatology. However, this is just for a reference, be with it. Let's have a map connect and see that where we have like a more desert, mostly located deserts. If you, so sorry, the deserts, those who are located uh, in which particular part of the continents, especially the major continents which are there. So here if you see major continents and major deserts, if you see, so here you will see we have a Mojave desert in USA, you will see Sonoran desert in North America, then you will see Chihuahuan Desert, which is there in the North America, Atacama Desert, which is there in the South America. Then you will see Nabib Desert, Kalahari Desert, Sahara Desert, one of the largest desert of the world. Negev Desert is there in the Arabian Peninsula, Dashate, Lut, Dashate, Kavir. Dashate, Lut, Dashate, Kavir, these are the desert in the Middle East region, Iran, and that particular region. We will have an intense mapping. Don't worry. Here, I just want to give you one connect. That's why we are discussing about these things. Whenever we will have a continent-wise, country-wise mapping, I'll tell you that which particular desert are there, which particular specific country. So we will have a clarity about that in those sessions. Then we have a Thar desert in India, Pakistan. Arabian Peninsula desert is there. Gibson desert is there in the Australia, and we have a Great Sandy desert in Australia. Gobi desert is there, and Taklamakan desert is there, specifically at the border junction of China and Mongolia. There you will see we have this Taklamakan desert. Yes, Taklamakan desert. This is the name which is given. I don't know what was the assumption which has been taken just to give this particular name, Taklamakan.